Menes, legendary first king of unified Egypt, who, according to tradition, joined Upper and Lower Egypt in a single centralized monarchy and established ancient Egypt's first dynasty. Manetho, a 3rd century BCE Egyptian historian, called him Menes. The 5th century BCE Greek historian Herodotus referred to him as Min, and 2 native king lists of the 19th dynasty call him Meni. Modern scholars have inconclusively identified the legendary Menes with one or more of the archaic Egyptian kings bearing the names Scorpion, Narmer, and Aha. In addition to crediting Menes with the unification of Egypt by war and administrative measures, a tradition appearing in the Turin Papyrus and the History of Herodotus credits him with diverting the course of the Nile in Lower Egypt and founding Memphis, the capital of ancient Egypt during the Old Kingdom, on the reclaimed land. Excavations at Ṣaqqārah, the cemetery for Memphis, revealed that the earliest royal tomb located there belongs to the reign of Aha. Manetho called Menes a Thinite, i.e., a native of the nome province of Thinis in Upper Egypt, and in fact, monuments belonging to the kings Narmer and Aha, either of whom may be Menes, have been excavated at Abydos, a royal cemetery in the Thinite nome. Narmer also appears on a slate palette alternately wearing the red and white crowns of Lower and Upper Egypt, a combination symbolic of unification, and shown triumphant over his enemies. Actually, the whole process probably required several reigns, and the traditional Menes may well represent the kings involved. According to Manetho, Menes reigned for 62 years and was killed by a hippopotamus. During the 31st century BCE, 2 separate and distinct civilizations inhabited the Nile Valley. The worship of Set was prominent in Upper Egypt in the south, while the worship of Horus was prevalent in Lower Egypt in the north. An ambitious king from Upper Egypt named Narmer managed to conquer Lower Egypt and declared himself the first ruler of both territories. This marked the beginning of a period of hereditary rule in Egypt and laid the foundation for one of the most comprehensive and enduring civilizations in history, spanning nearly 3,000 years. Throughout previous centuries, both Upper and Lower Egypt had developed at similar rates. However, by the end of the 32nd century BCE, increased trade with neighboring civilizations, such as Mesopotamia, shifted the balance of power in favor of Upper Egypt. Meanwhile, Lower Egypt consisted only of small administrative divisions. Several cities had already emerged in Upper Egypt, and soon they found themselves in need of more resources to meet the growing expansion of urban areas. Narmer, also known as the Scorpion King, originally ruled the city of Thinis in Upper Egypt. He formed a confederation of tribal leaders known as the Two-Land Confederation, with the aim of launching an invasion and occupation against the north. The confederation achieved a complete victory over Lower Egypt and unified both lands in the process. The story of Narmer is narrated in the oldest historical document in the world, the Narmer palette. This palette is a 2-foot-long engraved piece discovered in the ancient Egyptian city of Nekhen, better known by its Greek name, Hierakonpolis. The front side of the palette depicts Narmer as a tall, pyramid-shaped figure wearing the hedjet or white crown of Upper Egypt. He is distinguished by his appearance resembling a bowling pin. In the palette, Narmer is shown standing over an enemy, holding a lock of his hair in one hand and a mace in the other, ready to strike his head. This position is referred to as the striking pose and symbolizes victory, remaining a common symbol throughout the history of ancient Egyptians. The small rectangle in the upper part of the palette, known as the serek, meaning facade in ancient Egyptian language, indicates that the tall figure is Narmer. The serek shows the facade of a palace containing 2 small shapes inside, phonetically representing the name Narmer. The first shape is that of a catfish, pronounced nar, and the second is that of a chisel, pronounced mer, in ancient Egyptian. This is one of the oldest hieroglyphic inscriptions ever discovered. Above the defeated enemy stands Horus, represented as a falcon. He stands on several purple flowers, which symbolize Lower Egypt. The falcon holds a rope tied to the enemy's nose with its claws. This indicates Narmer's complete dominance over the people of Lower Egypt. Below him lies the slain enemy of Narmer. The story continues on the other side of the palette, where Narmer and his men are depicted in a procession, while his enemies lie naked, bound, and decapitated with their heads placed between their legs. Once again, Narmer is depicted hierarchically, with a focus on his godlike persona. However, he now appears wearing the dayeret, or red crown of Lower Egypt. The crown is distinguished by its prominent cobra emblem, which represents the cobra goddess Wadjet. This is the first depiction of a ruler wearing both crowns of Egypt. Below them, two men are shown pulling ropes tied to the intertwined necks of mythical creatures. These creatures are a mix of snakes and leopards called serpopards. The design is believed to symbolize the unification of the lands of Egypt. In the lower part of the palette, Narmer is depicted as a bull demolishing the walls of the enemy and trampling on a defeated foe. Another artifact related to the first pharaoh, also found in Qom el-Ahmar, is the decorated macehead. It is made of limestone and commemorates the unification of Egypt. Narmer strengthened his rule through strategic marriage to a princess of Lower Egypt named Neithotep, who became the queen and the mother of his heir and successor, Horus Aha. The newly unified kingdom became known as the Two Lands among the ancient Egyptians throughout most of their history. During his reign, Narmer expanded the borders of the newly unified kingdom through military expeditions into Canaan from the north and Nubia from the south. He founded the city of Memphis, strategically located at the beginning of the Nile Delta, which quickly developed into a major trade and cultural hub in the region. Symbols such as the Ankh, the ancient Egyptian symbol of life, and the Djed pillar, a four-layered pillar representing the spinal column of Osiris, were popularized under his rule. Narmer was buried in a tomb near the Egyptian city of Abydos, where the tombs of many early Egyptian rulers were found. Through blood and conquest, Narmer became the first pharaoh of Egypt, ushering in a period of hereditary rule.